Have you ever been told at work that you need to be more assertive? Speak up, set boundaries, say what you mean what you say? It sounds like solid advice, it does, but it's also one of the fastest ways that capable people quietly derail their careers. Because at work, assertiveness doesn't mean what people think it means. And before I go further, I'm Noel and I spent 30 years inside of executive HR, sitting in promotion rooms, performance reviews, and escalation meetings, and advising decisions that have shaped over 22,000 careers. I help design a system that interprets behavior. And I can tell you this clearly. Most people who think they're being assertive are actually just being exposed. Exposed to interpretation, exposed to documentation, exposed to memory. And here's the mistake, right? When employees hear be more assertive, they assume it means say exactly what you feel, push back directly, or draw a clear line in a moment. And that can feel strong, right? But inside the system, it often gets read as rigid, emotional, and difficulty to manage. And not because you actually wrong, but because assertiveness without strategy creates evidence. And evidence creates friction. And friction gets remembered by people who weren't even in the room. That's how it happens. And here's the part that no one actually says to you. The workplace isn't neutral, it's interpretive. Every sentence gets categorized, every tone gets translated, every pushback gets filed into a story that you don't even control. And here's what executives understand that employees are never taught, right? Assertiveness is not about volume, it's not about firmness, and it's definitely not about standing your ground, being firm. But assertiveness is about control. Control of the timing, control of the framing, and control of the consequences. And executives don't assert themselves by pushing harder. They assert themselves by making moves that leave the other side fewer options without creating a problem to manage. I'll give you a specific realist scenario, right? Your manager adds new work late in the week, probably close to the end of the day, that's outside of your scope, and you already maxed out, you at capacity, right? Most people are told to say, I need you to respect my boundaries. And that sounds assertive, it does, but what the system hears is interpersonal tension, conflict, management required. And instead, here's how you enforce the boundary and you protect your record. Here's what you do, right? You say calmly and in writing, that won't be feasible with the current priorities. If this needs to be addressed, we'll need to revisit scope or sequencing so that we can continue to meet expectations in all deliverables. Hear that? Read that again, because that's no emotion, no confrontation, and no debates. The boundary is enforced, the responsibility shifts back, and the record shows that you are as aligned as they are and not resistant. Same outcome, very different interpretation. And here's the critical part most people miss, right? Once the wrong version of assertiveness hits the record, you don't get a rewrite, you don't. And that's why just be assertive is bad, because it assumes the workplace is fair, and it isn't. It's not fair at all. It's a system that interprets behavior, assigns meetings, and quietly decides who is promoted and who becomes complicated. And that's exactly why I build HR Armor, and specifically Mini-Me. Mini-Me isn't a generic software or surface level advice. It's actually executive HR judgment built exclusively for you as an employee. And it's what executives have always had. Someone to run things by before they actually speak. So before you send the email, before you push back, before you walk into that meeting, you can grab your phone, right? Open HR Armor, drop the situation into Mini-Me and ask anything. Like, for example, you can ask, how will this be interpreted? What risk does this create? What language protects my position? Not just after the fact, but before it becomes record too. Because I know what happens next. I know in that script, works perfectly today, but next week a different fire pops up, different context, different posture, same risk. And that's when people guess. And Mini-Me exists so you don't have to. It is intelligence engine that navigates any situation real time, no guessing, and it helps you to assert without triggering the wrong interpretation. Because the goal isn't to feel assertive in the moment, the goal is to be seen as promotable after the conversation ends. So if you want to see how Mini-Me works, how executive HR judgment actually protects employees like you in real time, comment or DM the word demo, because at work, power isn't about volume, it's about not letting the wrong thing become the record.